The sun rose slowly over the endless plains of East Africa, spilling golden light across a world still half wild, half awakening. It was 4.5 million years ago, a time before civilization, before language, before names, when survival itself was the only story that mattered. The air shimmered with heat and the calls of unseen beasts echoed through the tall, whispering grass. In that world, one small band of early humans, Homo Habilis. They were not yet masters of the earth, but they were learning. Their hands, clumsy yet clever, carried the spark of something no creature before them had possessed, the beginning of human thought. At the edge of a shallow stream, a young female bent down to drink. Her name would never be known, but her story was written in every heartbeat of this land. Her small, intelligent eyes scanned the horizon, searching not only for danger but for opportunity, a movement in the grass, a shimmer of scales, a flash of feathers. Her tribe had no words, but they shared glances, gestures, and instinct. Their world was one of constant testing, of hunger, fear, and raw discovery. The day before, lightning had struck far across the plain, setting dry grass ablaze. When the flames died, strange blackened ground remained, and the smell of roasted flesh drew scavengers from miles away. It was there, in that eerie silence after fire, that these early humans had found their chance and their first taste of cooked meat. The memory watched a vulture circle overhead. The tribe had followed migrating herds for days, sleeping in caves or beneath the shelter of overhanging cliffs. Nights were cold and dangerous, haunted by the growls of saber-toothed cats and the screams of giant baboons. Fire, though still mysterious, had become something sacred. They did not yet know how to create it, only how to keep it alive once found. A glowing branch, carried carefully from the last lightning strike, burned weakly at their camp. Smoke drifted into the morning air, a fragile symbol of survival. Around it, her companions stirred, two males, scarred from fights with beasts, and an elder female whose bones ached with age but whose eyes still burned with wisdom. Across the valley, the savanna stretched wide, home to mammoths, towering giraffes, and ancient predators whose names would vanish with time. The ground trembled beneath the steps of a migrating herd of giant elephants, and the air was thick with dust and life. Every sound meant something: danger, food, or chance. For the Homo Habilis tribe, the world was both a teacher and a killer. They learned to move with silence, to read the cries of birds, to smell rain before it came. Their survival depended on memory, and memory was becoming something deeper, something inherited not through blood alone, but through the shaping of thought. The young female crouched now, eyes fixed on a cluster of rocks near the stream. She had seen a leopard drink there before dawn, its paw prints still fresh in the mud. Nearby, a half-eaten carcass of an antelope lay hidden among reeds, already buzzing with flies. Hunger gnawed at her belly, yet fear kept her cautious. One wrong move could turn her from hunter to prey. Slowly, she reached for a stone, not just any stone, but one sharp-edged and familiar. Her fingers closed around it with intent, the same way her ancestors had held bones and sticks. She struck another rock against it, chipping away the edge until it gleamed with promise. It was crude, primitive, but it was something new, the birth of a tool, a weapon, a beginning. Behind her, the rest of the group watched. They didn't understand innovation, but they understood success. When she used that sharp edge to cut strips of meat from the carcass, their eyes lit up. A sound escaped their throats, half grunt, half joy. The act would repeat for generations, passing from mother to child, until one day it would become knowledge, then culture, then civilization. But here, on this hot morning of dust and danger, it was only survival. The female lifted the meat toward the fire, and the smoke carried its scent across the plain. The smell brought others, jackals, vultures, even a massive short-faced bear in the distance. Instinct told them to eat fast, to move before the stronger came. They did. Within minutes, the tribe gathered what they could and retreated to the shelter of the rocks. The old female carried the smoldering branch, its faint light reflecting in her dark eyes. They would keep it alive, feed it, guard it through the night. Around them, the land pulsed with life, insects humming, predators prowling, the wind bending the grass like waves on an ocean of gold. The young female, her hands stained with ashen blood, looked once more toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, others like her might be wandering too, driven by the same hunger, guided by the same fragile spark of awareness. They were not yet human as we know it, but the seed was their curiosity, adaptation, the will to endure. As the sun climbed higher, shadows shortened and heat pressed down. The group moved slowly, searching for shade. From the distance came the deep bellow of a predator, perhaps a saber-toothed cat, perhaps something older, unseen. Fear coursed through their limbs, but so did understanding. Move together, stay low, follow the wind. The young one led them toward a grove of trees, heart pounding, senses alert. This was her world, raw, brutal, magnificent. Every sunrise was a question, every night a test. But in her heartbeat echoed something eternal, the rhythm of survival, the first music of humankind. The dawn of Homo Habilis had begun not with speech or cities, but with the courage to pick up a stone, to face the wild, and to believe that life could be more than fear. It was the start of a journey that would span millions of years, from trembling hands in the dust to the builders of empires. Yet here, under the burning African sky, that destiny was only a whisper in the wind, a whisper that said, "Survive." Night came swiftly to the savannah, as though the sun had fallen behind the world and taken warmth with it. The grasslands that shimmered gold by day turned now into an ocean of darkness, alive with sound, the shriek of unseen birds, the rustle of serpents, the heavy breathing of predators stalking close. The small band of Homo Habilis huddled together beneath the rocky overhang that served as their shelter. The flicker of a single flame, their only treasure, danced upon the walls, painting moving shadows that seemed to breathe. That fire was more than light. It was hope, warmth, and protection. To them, it was a living thing, unpredictable, hungry, beautiful. The old female, who had carried it all day, now tended it like a mother would tend her child, feeding it bits of dry grass and twigs, murmuring low sounds as if speaking to a spirit. Beyond the cave mouth, the eyes of the night gleamed back, yellow, green, red reflections of predators circling. A striped hyena's cackle echoed, followed by the deep, vibrating growl of something larger. The young female from earlier, her sharp stone still in her hand, pressed herself against the wall, listening. Her ears caught every sound, the crack of a branch, the hiss of the wind, the low rumble that rolled through the earth. A saber-toothed cat. It was close, close enough to smell them. She froze. The tribe stayed motionless, barely breathing. Firelight wavered, throwing shadows that trembled like frightened hearts. Then the beast appeared, a massive cat, larger than any lion that would come after it. Its shoulders rippled with muscle, its eyes glowed like molten gold. It padded into the edge of the fire's light, curious but cautious. The scent of cooked meat still lingered on the air. For a long moment, time itself seemed to stop, two lines of survival facing each other, predator and prey, both ancient, both aware. The fire popped, sending up a burst of sparks. The cat flinched, muscles coiling, and then, with a snarl, retreated into darkness. The humans did not move for many breaths after. When they did, it was with trembling limbs and whispered grunts, half fear, half triumph. The fire had saved them. That night, no one slept. The young one sat near the flames, her eyes reflecting its dance. Something stirred inside her, not just relief, but understanding. The fire kept the darkness away. It could protect, not only destroy. But it was fragile, dying easily without care. She reached toward it, feeling its warmth lick her fingers. Pain seared her skin, and she jerked back with a cry. The tribe stirred, startled. The old female grunted softly, a warning and a teaching in one sound. Fire was friend and enemy both. Too close, it bit; too far, it vanished. When dawn broke, pale and grey, the tribe emerged from their shelter, exhausted but alive. Mist curled low across the plain, carrying the smell of wet earth and decay. The saber-toother's tracks were still visible in the mud, deep impressions that spoke of power. But they had survived. The young female gazed at those tracks, her mind turning. The creature had feared the fire. That knowledge was power, even if she could not name it. Around her, the group began their morning ritual, stretching, sniffing the air, searching for signs of water or prey. Life resumed, because it had to. The day grew hotter as they moved along the river. Herds of antelope grazed nearby, their flanks twitching with the bite of insects. Above, vultures wheeled in slow circles, marking death somewhere unseen. The Homo Habilis followed those signs. They had learned that where vultures gathered, there was food if they were quick enough to steal it from the hyenas. Soon they came upon the carcass of a young zebra, half-eaten but still fresh. Flies clouded around it, and the stench was heavy. 2 males approached first, using sticks to push away bones and insects. Then, using their chipped stones, they sliced through sinew and skin, cutting off chunks of meat. It was a grim, desperate feast, but it meant survival. The young one watched carefully how the older male held the stone, how his strikes broke bone and split marrow. The sound, the cracking of stone and flesh, echoed like the birth of understanding. Yet the world offered no peace. As they fed, a shadow passed over the sun. The vultures screamed and scattered. The tribe froze. Out of the tall grass emerged a shape taller than any they had seen, a meganterian, the same saber-tooth, drawn by the scent of blood. Its jaws gleamed with long, curved fangs, each as long as a hand. Panic erupted. The old female screamed, a raw, guttural sound that tore through the air. The tribe scattered, grabbing what they could. The predator lunged. Dust flew, claws tore at earth and stone. The young one stumbled, clutching her sharp-edged rock. The beast's shadow loomed above her until something bright flashed between them. The fire. The old female had thrown a burning branch. It landed before the cat, hissing and smoking. The beast reared back, snarling, confused by the dancing flame. The young one saw her chance. She swung her stone with all her strength, striking the cat's snout. Blood spattered across her arm. The animal howled, retreating into the grass with a furious roar. The humans fled, hearts pounding, until they reached higher ground, panting, trembling, but alive once more. When silence returned, they sat together, the old female breathing hard, her wrinkled hands shaking. The young one looked at her, at the ash smeared across her face, the fire still burning in her grip. In that moment, something sacred passed between them, knowledge, unspoken and eternal. Fire was strength. Fire could conquer fear. It could turn prey into hunter. That night, under a sky crowded with stars, the tribe rested near a new camp. The flames flickered again, steady this time, protected by stones. Around it, they gathered close, their shadows forming the first circle of humanity. The young female sat nearest the light, watching the fire's dance. It seemed alive, a creature of their making, one they could feed and shape. Sparks rose into the night, vanishing like tiny souls. She lifted her gaze to the constellations, points of light in the darkness, and felt something stirring within her chest that she could not name. It was more than hunger, more than fear. It was wonder. Far across the plains, predators prowled, storms brewed, and the endless struggle of life continued. But here, in this fragile glow, something had changed. Thought had begun to take form. Curiosity had found its home in the human mind. The first question, unspoken, undefined, had been born in the heart of a creature who dared to look into the fire and see more than danger. She saw meaning. She saw possibility. And in that flickering light, humanity took another step forward, from mere survival to the first glimmer of understanding. The morning that followed carried the scent of rain and the low hum of insects waking across the savannah. Clouds gathered heavy and dark in the east, casting shadows over the grasslands. The tribe of Homo Habilis moved with purpose now, driven not only by instinct but by memory, the memory of fire, of danger, of survival. The young female, her burnt fingers still sore, led the way along a ridge that overlooked a shallow valley. Below, a river wound through the plain like a silver snake, feeding clusters of trees and life in every form. She paused often, studying the land, her eyes alive with alertness. She had begun to see patterns, the way animals moved, where fruit grew, where predators waited. Her awareness was sharper now, shaped by experience, strengthened by fear and discovery. As the tribe descended toward the river, a storm began to build. Thunder rolled across the horizon like the heartbeat of the gods. Raindrops struck the ground in heavy, rhythmic beats, turning dust into mud. The group huddled beneath the trees, watching the sky tear open with lightning. And then, in the distance, fire struck again, a bright explosion of light that set a lone tree ablaze. The old female pointed, grunting a sound the others understood: fire. They would go when the storm passed. They would take what the sky had given. When the rain eased, the young one crept closer to the smoking tree. The air sizzled with heat, and the earth steamed. Around the charred trunk lay the remains of creatures caught in the blaze: small lizards, birds, even a gazelle. The smell of roasted meat filled the air. She crouched beside one carcass and touched its skin, soft, warm, easy to tear. Hunger drove her to taste it, and again, the flavor of cooked flesh awakened something primal inside her. She called out with sharp clicks of her tongue, and the tribe gathered. They ate carefully, sharing in silence. Smoke curled into the air, spiraling upward like a message to the sky. But something else caught her eye. Near the burnt tree, a large stone had cracked open from the heat. Its edges were sharp and glittering, like the fangs of a predator. She picked up a piece, turning it in her hand. The cut edge glinted. She struck it against another rock, breaking off smaller shards. The sound echoed like thunder, crisp, purposeful. The others watched, intrigued. The young one used the edge to slice meat with ease. The elder grunted approval. The males followed, mimicking the strike. Soon, the air filled with the rhythmic clack of stone against stone, the first workshop in human history, born not from design, but from observation and imitation. These stones became extensions of their hands, cutting, cracking, shaping. With them, they opened bones to suck out marrow, the richest food of all. They scraped hides, broke shells, split fruit. Each action fed understanding, each success planted memory. The young female felt it, a connection between thought and action, between what she imagined and what her hands created. For the first time, humanity had made something new. The world around them was no longer just a place of danger, it was a source of tools, of answers. Days turned into weeks. The tribe followed herds across the valley, their tools clinking softly in woven grass pouches. They hunted not by chance, but by planning, watching the wind, reading tracks, learning to strike as a group. When a small antelope strayed from its herd, they surrounded it, driving it toward the river where the mud slowed its legs. The young female struck first, her sharp stone slicing deep. The others followed, and the creature fell. Its blood soaked into the earth, steaming in the sun. They ate quickly, grateful, their bellies full for the first time in days. The old female touched the young one's shoulder, a rare gesture of pride. In her eyes was something like understanding. This young one was leading them forward. Yet progress brought risk. Their success drew attention. Larger predators, lions, saber-toothed cats, and packs of hyenas began to shadow their movements. One evening, as the tribe rested near a cluster of trees, the growl of approaching beasts filled the air. The young one leaped to her feet, heart hammering. They had no time to flee. The fire was too small to frighten the pack. She snatched a burning branch and waved it, shouting guttural cries. The others joined her, stamping their feet, raising stones. The hyenas circled, snarling, but the humans did not retreat. Smoke rose, sparks flew, and something ancient stirred within them, not panic, but defiance. They stood together, shoulder to shoulder, their shadows huge in the firelight. The predators hesitated. For the first time, the balance of fear shifted. When the hyenas finally backed away, tails low, a new feeling filled the tribe: victory. They had not just survived, they had won. The young female dropped her branch, breathing hard, sweat and ash streaking her skin. Around her, the others made soft, rhythmic sounds, the beginnings of what might one day become song. It was not just noise, it was emotion given voice: joy, triumph, unity. Fire crackled in the background, the sky wide and filled with stars, and for a moment, the night belonged to them. Later, as the tribe slept, the young one remained awake. She held a stone in her hand, running her thumb over its sharp edge. The firelight reflected in her eyes, deep and thoughtful. She looked at her companions, the old female, the hunters, the children, and felt something she could not name. They were changing. Their world was changing. She had seen her kind bleed and survive, fear and fight, and through it all, they had learned. Perhaps that was their true strength, not claws, not teeth, but the ability to remember, to imagine, to try again. The storm clouds drifted away, revealing a moon bright and full. The young one lifted her face to it, feeling its cold light touch her skin. She didn't understand the sky, but she sensed its rhythm, the passing of days, the coming of rains, the cycles of life and death. The earth was speaking, and somehow, she was beginning to listen. And in that listening, the human mind awoke, quiet, patient, unstoppable. The tool she held was more than stone now. It was thought made real, the bridge between instinct and intention. With every strike, every cut, every spark, she was building a future that would outlive her bones. She did not know it yet, but history had begun in her hands.